This is the MVP podcast where we talk to the most valuable people in sports. And today's MVP is James Hilovsky, who is a franchise broker. And what he does is he helps professional athletes and college athletes getting that NIL money by businesses. He broke down the whole process for us and told us how to go from not even knowing what kind of business you want to buy to how long it would take for you to earn back that initial investment and scale up to multiple businesses. This one had me itching to go and get some money and put some bread up to buy a business. Definitely interesting. So tune in, take notes. And as always,
gotta hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to share this with a friend. Without further ado, here's our conversation with James Hilovsky.
James, I have gone to a million places before and done business there and probably had no idea that they were even franchises. So could you tell me what makes a business a franchise and what separates it from any other kind of business?
Yeah, and how often you are 100% right. It's you go and you wouldn't even realize it's a franchise. So any business out there, you're driving along the street, you see all the trucks. The odds are those are probably a franchise business. And the way that you really shouldn't be able to tell that it is a franchise. So that's a good thing. The whole idea behind the franchise is basically we're going to give you the business playbook. You're going to follow it, and we're going to give you that support from open to while you have existing problems. We're going to help you with those. We're going to give you that ongoing support. And not only that, too, you get the ongoing support of the franchisees that are in the system. They basically become your teammates. But a lot of people think, well, franchising is just restaurants. Oh, it's dog grooming, it's pest control, it's tree trimming, lawn cutting. It is in all different industries. Even children's sports leagues are sometimes run by big franchises.
So would you say that it's almost like you just have to bring your effort and bring your business skills and they give you everything else you need? Do you have to be very creative to run a franchise? Like, who does well in a franchise business?
Well, so who does well in a franchise? That is a great question. So someone who can take direction, can take coaching, and is willing to follow the playbook. Someone who doesn't do well in a franchise is going, well, I think that this menu item would be great and I'm going to make this up. Well, that's not really the way a franchise works. Franchise works. Here's the playbook. We've done we've made the mistakes. That's why you're in our system. So follow what we give you, and it's for your own good that we're having this done. But yeah, you don't even need to. They'd like to say it's dog grooming and you've never groomed a dog. You don't need to know how to groom a dog. You're going to hire people to do that. Your job is to hire the right people and run that business and follow the playbook that the franchisor gives you. And also the guidance they give you. There might be a time where you have a really bad month and they'll be able to pull up your stats and go, hey, this is probably why you had this bad month. Maybe we need to do a little bit more marketing efforts, or maybe it's simply because if it's service-oriented franchise, you didn't have enough staff on.
Yeah, so you help athletes. You help a lot of different people, but specifically you also help athletes buy businesses and get them up and running. So how did you get into this, and why are athletes a good fit? I mean, you said there's a playbook to run. They got to follow the plays. It sounds like athletes are a perfect fit, but how did you land here doing this?
Yeah, so I spent years in the restaurant business working for a big corporation, and then a company decided, hey, come work for us, and we want to grow our franchise system. They had one restaurant at the time, and I helped build that from 1 to 100 units in the chain. And then the largest franchisee of that company said, hey, come help run our business. Just come join us because we're doing some great things. Happened it was owned by 2 NFL football players that were brothers that were out there. So we did our restaurants, we did a couple other franchises, and did our own concepts. And then one of the brothers, he retired from the NFL, and the other brother got hurt, couldn't fulfill the end of his contract. So then they decided they wanted to get out of the restaurant business. they wanted to do some things in the movies and producing and the tequila business. And the tequila business, nothing wrong with that. It's just not something I was passionate about. So then I came over and I go, well, I really want to help people find franchises because I'm really good at that. And I see what a difference it can make in somebody's life. If it's somebody in corporate America, it's helping them get out of that corporate America rut or have that, job turn their back on someone after they've been there 15 years that they lay someone off. But the intriguing part of the athletes was such a great fit because athletes are used to following a playbook and then they are used to risk. So an athlete is used to taking a risk, and that's you kind of have to have that to get into the franchise world and do a business on your own. But also seeing the people that were around the two football players that would come up with just different schemes or pull on them to do this or to do that. And some of it was their best friends, and it was just not the right fit, and just really just didn't make any sense. So I really got a sense that, I would love to take an athlete and help him with an honest perspective on here's the good franchises that are out there, and I'll help you identify what's a good and a bad franchise.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily like buying clothes. You can't just go to the mall and browse through a whole lot of franchises. Or is there some kind of, MLS listing for businesses that you can buy? Like, where would you even begin to look to buy a business?
Yeah, so it is something that we talk about owner operator. So there's owner operator models where you have to be in the day to day, or there's models to where you can be semi-passive, where you can hire a manager to do the day to day, and you're not in the business every day. So you take those factors, you look at investment level, because the worst thing you can do is overtax someone in the investment world. And then you also look at the industries that are out there, and we go over the industries and what is something that interests you or something that you think would be great. And then I'll maybe show you something that would be, wow, this is really high margins. Mainly with the athletes, it's, I want to get into a gym or health and wellness, muscle recovery, physical therapy type deal. And a lot of them will go restaurants because of thinking of Shaq and how he did it. And it's like, well, you got to have a lot of money to do that, like a lot of money. And then you have to have a really good team. I would not recommend going into the restaurant business without a great restaurant team and a lot of capital, because it is one of the most expensive investments out there in a franchise, and it is one of the smallest margins, and the margins are only getting thinner. So you have to be well capitalized and have a great team in place to do that. And we talk and go over all those factors, and then what I'll do is I'll show them maybe 5, 10 different franchises, and then we'll talk about them, and then they'll go, hey, that sounds really great.
Yeah, so you are kind of like the real estate agent of buying a franchise, the same way how people would consult somebody when they're buying a home. And you mentioned like the margins and the risk profile and the initial investment. What kind of investment range are we looking at if somebody wants to buy into this? I know you mentioned there was NFL guys involved. Obviously, they're very affluent in the NFL, but is this something that is accessible to somebody who might not be a millionaire? Could other people also buy into franchises? Like, what are the ranges of initial investment?
So the ranges you could get into a franchise, I would say around 100K. You could do vending machines for about 40K. I would say you go up to 200K. I could get you into a franchise that I could show you that will make you 6 figures and up on that for sure. And it goes on up to $7 to $11 million. I mean, there's franchises that, believe it or not, are car dealerships. There's a franchise for that. And so that takes a lot of inventory and a lot of cash. And then there's entertainment centers that have bowling alleys and bars and laser tag, and those run into the $1 million. Typically, those are something that I don't show unless an athlete goes, hey, I really want to do this. It's really hard if that fails to recover from that. And, that's why also when you go to the restaurant business, you're looking at $700K to $1 million roughly. And if it's someone that's all they really have, which that's a lot of money. If I put you in that versus put you into something that is like dog grooming, which is 200K, you could recover from losing 200K a lot faster than you can from losing $1 million if the business went sideways.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And so along with that investment, I assume there's probably some property that you're getting a lease on. There might be equipment, inventory you mentioned. You probably have to hire some staff and float payroll for a little while. What are some of the things that initial investment gets you? And then there's ongoing costs, I'd assume, to running a franchise.
Correct. So that initial investment will get you the build out. It will get you everything that you need. So the franchisor will help you with site selection. So they'll help you show you different places that are out there. You pick a site and then they have the final approval. So you're both agreeing on that. So, and then in the investment side, it is, if it's brick and mortar, of course, it's all the equipment that you need. And then the startup cost of what's a grand opening going to cost. In buying a franchise, there's an item 7, what they call, and then they do a range. Like it could be a range of 150,000 to 220,000. That's a big gap, but you have to remember you're putting this out there for really the whole nation. So someone in California is going to pay a lot more than someone in Missouri to start it, just because the costs are more. And depending on, you might have some equipment from an existing business before that might make it a little bit cheaper. So you do have that. And then oftentimes in that initial investment, the franchise fee is always included in that, and that's a one-time fee that's paid to the franchisor. So that's in there. And then there's also typically 3 months of runway of cash that might say 10 to 15,000, depending on what the franchise is. That would cover, like you were saying, your payroll cost, and just to give you a little bit of runway in the business for that until you start breaking a cash flow.
No, that's really interesting. And so with all these different ranges of businesses and different industries and whatnot, are there some that are very popular or easier to get into? You mentioned dog grooming, which is something I would have never thought of as a franchise that you could buy into. But are there other things that are very common? Maybe they have a smaller real estate footprint, or you mentioned brick and mortar, meaning that you could buy franchises that are online potentially. Like, what are some of the more common ones that people buy into?
So a lot of people do home services where they could be a home-based business where it's cleaning windows of homes, or it's a steam cleaning of homes, or there is even franchises that all they do is clean out dryer vents, kitchen remodel, and these franchises do really well. So a lot in the home service ones are typically those that are going to be around 100,000. So the investment level is a little smaller. Typically that's an owner operator model, but that's okay because, if you're leaving your job, you don't really want that overhead right away. You could start it, build it up, and then have someone do the day to day. So there's a lot in the home industry. Dog grooming, that's a home run one. That's hot right now. Everybody knows it's hard to find a dog groomer. There's a dog grooming franchises that are out there that are reoccurring revenue, much like car washes where you pay X amount of dollar a month. So this one in particular is $50 a month you pay, and you can take your dog in as many times to get groomed a month. So on the franchise, so it's a win-win for the customer, the consumer. You're getting this great deal. For the franchisee, that's reoccurring revenue that comes in, and the margins are super strong. And so dog grooming is popular. There's restoration that's out there. A lot of the health and wellness franchises are really popular, of IV drips, gyms that are out there. There's the another one that's IV drip and Chiro in the same place.
I like that.
So those are great franchises. And then one for golfers is a golf franchise. It's indoor golf, but 24/7 access into the building to where you don't need employees. So it's all automated. It gives you a door code to get in. People come in, play their golf, and you don't need anybody behind the counter. And that one is what we call a super great passive model, where you're really spending about 10 hours in the business.
Oh my goodness, you almost got me sold. So these sound like really intriguing and outside of the typical idea of what I thought of as a franchise. I just think of, McDonald's. Up here we got one called Tim Hortons. It's just like a coffee chain. What's the benchmark, or what would be typical across franchising in terms of earning back that initial investment? Like, at what time period? Obviously it's going to range, but
Sure.
If I put in an initial investment, if I make that money back in 5 years, is that average? Is that fast? Is that slow? Like, how should people think about that aspect?
That would be a very slow return, 5 years. Dog grooming, we kind of get you even in that business well within the first year potential. Home care service, which is helping seniors stay in their home. That one's a little bit long term of to get all your money back, but you're looking at two years on that one, probably 2-year benchmark to get your money back and then start cash flow positive. And that's another really great business to be in, because we're all getting older, and you want to stay in your home, and you have your care workers go out and help seniors adapt and stay in their home. They even have technology now to where on the TV you can see the senior. The senior can turn the camera off, but they can you can see the senior that if they're doing okay, it'll pop up on the TV. Hey, it's time to take your meds. Or, hey, you have a doctor's appointment. So there's really, with technology, it's really come quite a long way in the franchise sector for sure.
So this sounds really good. What makes having a franchise hard? Because I feel like this makes so much sense. Anybody and everybody would be clamoring to do it. What's the toughest part about running a franchise?
The toughest part about running a franchise is two things: is to have the liquid cash. So to get a loan, to get into it, you're probably looking, if you have $40K to $50K, that could get you into something around $200K that will change your life for the good. And then the other thing really is fear of not going out and wanting to do that. That makes a franchise hard, being afraid to take that step and go out into it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that every franchise you make it. There's going to be some that fail, but by using someone like myself, that's how you get coached, and we help you to find good franchises that are ones that are out there that the systems do great. But what you really want to look for when looking in a franchise is someone franchisor that's going to be there for you, give you strong support, give you strong training, answer you when you have any questions for you, and just keep that ongoing support going. And that is the main thing. I always say the best way to check if a franchise is doing well is when you're in discovery process. Let's talk to the franchisees in the system. Let's ask them, how quick were you profitable? Would you do this again? What kind of support you get? And those are kind of the answers you want, because at the end of the day, really, it's up to you to make your business work. The franchisor is there to help you, support you, but you've got to be able to follow that playbook and follow their plan. And that you basically want a great partnership.
Yeah, it sounds like you really have to go in with your eyes wide open and just understand what you're getting into, because getting in the right location could mean success or failure for a specific business. Even if it's a great business and you put it somewhere where you're not getting the right amount of traffic or attention, that have a serious implication on success or failure. So what do you think are some tips or advice for people who are even just thinking about it? Like, should they work on themselves? Should they do some more research? Like, what do you suggest to people who are interested in this type of business?
I think anybody who's interested in this type of business can do some research on their own, but there's probably 7,000 franchises out there. I work with about 400 to 500 franchises, and I will tell you, I work with that many, and it's because it's been kind of scaled down. I don't want to say good franchises because, there's a lot of good and bad franchises out there, but my hope is that all my franchises that I work with, they've been vetted. They are typically really good franchises that you could make a really good living that's going to change your life. And not only that, but you also got to think too strategy when you're thinking about a franchise. What do you want to do? What is your goal and purpose? Do you just want to have one franchise that replaces your job and you kind of want to work in it for, another 5 to 10 years? Or do you want to get into a franchise that you can help and expand it? So that'll kind of help us. So if you want to expand it and go maybe 2 to 3 franchises, and then also think about, is this something that, yes, I want to start this business, but maybe I have a family and I want to make this a family business where I pass this on to my kids or my kids help me. And we have generational wealth that we make for franchise, because then we got to find territory to where we have the territory that we can help grow.
Yeah, I think that's how, I know a bunch of people who, like I mentioned, Tim Hortons over here. That's a big one. I'm sure that just because you're in the franchise world, you probably heard of them. They're absolutely massive in Canada and I think parts of northern US. And you can't get a Tim Hortons now because it's such a good business. People who own them just print money. And I think in the late 90s or early 2000s in the region that I'm in, actually Hamilton, Ontario was where the very first Tim Hortons was started. So in that area, they know so well about it. If one was ever to come available, it would be first right of refusal to existing owners, and then to the general public. There's a long waiting line for that. So I think people just collect them. They just collect Tim Hortons because they know if they get one, it's going to print for them. So that generational wealth thing you mentioned definitely resonates.
Absolutely. And, one thing too, when we talk about looking at different franchises, one of the biggest franchise companies around is Subway that's out there. And Subway is, to be honest, not the best of franchises to be involved in, only because they don't give you any protection. You could open your Subway and then 6 months later, they could open one right down the street. So you really have no protected territory in running a Subway. Everybody thinks, oh, Subway's great. Well, you don't really have that protected area. It's probably something I wouldn't even sink a dollar into.
Yeah, true. So, financial literacy for athletes is a more common topic than it's ever been. If you had to give some advice to somebody who's just starting out their pro career, and I mean, this could just be business advice in general, what would you say when you sit down with this person?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because now with NIL money, I am getting some college kids coming and going, I'm thinking about, I have this money. What do I do with it? And it's always about, okay, well, you could do the real estate game. The real estate game is going to be a long play. There's a lot of risk to real estate. Everybody thinks real estate is safe, but if you're doing rentals and someone leaves the water on and decides to, run away, you got expense there. And then also think about it as, well, can real estate replace the income? So if you're looking to make income, can it replace the income? Can it generate $100,000 to $200,000 to $300,000 a year? No, it really can't replace the income unless you have a massive portfolio of it that takes, millions of dollars of doing that. So look at a franchise. And I always tell the athletes, if you have friends or you have family that can run the business for you, that would be a great idea to look at starting a franchise. So you're starting with one, and then maybe you add another one halfway through your career, or it's just a great thing to look at, to do, that you have that diversify your portfolio. And I would say, don't just do dog grooming, maybe do dog grooming and maybe do a tree trimming franchise and go from that way and diversify your portfolio. Or you just love the dog grooming franchise and you go, then I'm going to do 10. But, it's just, and it's having that plan. I was just speaking with the NFL player the other day. He was like, I think I have 3 years left. Is what I have. I'm hoping I have 3 years left, because the NFL, it can be done tomorrow for sure.
Yeah, that NFL sometimes stands for not for long.
Exactly. So he's like, I hope I have 3 years left. And what I want to do is I want to get into a franchise now, and I want to make $500,000 when I'm done. I want to walk into $500,000 when I'm done playing, and I want to own a gym. And so we found him a concept that he really liked. It was a gym that does a 6-week weight loss challenge that helps people not only work out, but help transform their lives. And it has like different proteins that they sell and everything. And we were looking at it and we were like, well, one gym, you're probably going to net about 150 to 200K on average on this particular franchise. And he was like, okay, so then we need to do a multiple strategy, and let's try work on getting 3 before I retire. So he wants to do one every year. So he'll have 3 gyms up and get his goal of, what he wants to walk out when he's done playing.
That's cool. Yeah, it really has you thinking in empire mindset. You don't want to just, once you figure out how to do it, it's something that you probably would want to keep doing. It just makes a lot of sense for those who are able and are liquid, like you mentioned. So, James, you said you were in the business, and are you still a franchise owner, or are you just purely in the consulting side now?
Purely in the consulting side now. Yeah, definitely. The restaurant business is a tough business. I did it for a long time, but I was really happy to exit it, and very happy that I did it well before California's minimum wage for fast food workers went up to $20 an hour. That's for sure.
Yeah, that California lifestyle is expensive. Yeah. So awesome. I really do appreciate you sharing so many priceless insights. I didn't know that much about franchises, except there's one in Ontario called Booster Juice, and they sell fruit smoothies, kind of like healthy shakes, that kind of stuff. And I was actually looking into buying one when I played professionally, and they had 3 different tiers that you could buy, like a very small one, a medium, and a bigger one. And the smallest one, I think, was somewhere around like 300 or like $300 or $400,000. And I was, or maybe it was less. But I was really thinking about doing it for a time, because the lady in my neighborhood, like you mentioned, she owned all 3 of the ones that are within driving distance of my house. So I always used to see her in the different locations. I'm like, do you work here? She's like, I own these. So now I kind of understand a little bit more about what she was trying to do. So I appreciate it. Now, this is the Sports Business Podcast, so I gotta close out and ask you this one question that I do ask everybody.
Yes.
Who are your 3 favorite athletes of all time? And that could be any era or any sport.
That's really good. So I'm going to kind of cheat and go and give you 4, because the first answer that I'm going to give you is very near and dear to my heart, because it is my kids. So my daughter is a water polo player. She played at Indiana University, water polo, and just to see they had a coaching change, and just to see that how she handled that, and just always was picking up her teammates and never let them down, was really, really great. And just that knowledge, and taking that athlete knowledge, she went into the business world, wants to get her own business, but she is in the business world now and thriving because of her athletic background there. And then my son, he is a football player, high school football player. He's a slot receiver, and he's been beset by some injuries. He had at the end of his freshman year, he tore a ligament in his thumb, and then start of his sophomore year, he was doing 7-on-7, tore the same ligament. So lost his whole sophomore year. And then last year he was doing a kickoff return and someone hit him high and low and broke his foot. And so to see that kid go through the adversity that he has, but being that he was injured, showing up at 6 a.m. practice every day, just standing there, listening to plays of how I can get better and how can I make my teammates get better. It's just amazing and just very proud that, even though he's not on the field competing, he's there running his teammates. So that would be that. Now, let me get to the three athletes that I grew up watching and love. One would be Dan Marino.
Oh, yeah.
Great quarterback. Love that he had his, he was cocky. And, Dan would say, no one can defend the perfect pass and I can throw the perfect pass. And so that's definitely one for sure. The next one would be Wayne Gretzky. Because I use, he just dominated the game. And then I also use, a lot of his quotes in business. One of them is, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Mm-hmm. And isn't that true, right? In anything, you don't take a shot, you're going to miss it.
Yeah. So, he also has another epic one, which is you got to skate to where the puck is going.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he is, and to dominate the way he is just incredible. And I will tell you, my last one would be Bryce Harper. The amount of pressure that young man had, being a young kid, missing his, missing his high school to join a junior college. So he should have been, in high school, and he goes junior college so he could go out a year in the draft, and just going out and playing against those older kids. And at first he was failing. He even called his high school coach, said, "Can I come back?" And they said, "Bryce, it's done. You've got to do this." So then he was like, "Okay, I got to man up." And, he got so much stuff from the opposing players, the umpires, of just, calling him a spoiled little kid. And, to this day, he still owns the home run record for that junior college. And they went to the College World Series and came one game away from it. And just the man steps up all the time, and just everyone that just to have that weight on your shoulders and still produce is just incredible.
Yeah, that is cool. I love hearing those stories of people rising up to huge challenges and overcoming. So, James, where can people learn more about franchises and tap in with you and get more resources or information?
Yeah, so my website is thefrandream.com. That's FRANDREAM.com. You could email me at james@thefrandream.com. And would look forward to talking to anybody just on franchising, and no pressure at all. Let's just talk.
Awesome. Really appreciate you taking the time. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you having me.